This video is to help you cut and drill holes in the clear plastic tubing in this year's game. Materials include the guide, the plastic tube, some tape, scissors, razor knife, pin, or similar to cut the tubing. At Kipper, we mounted a razor knife upside down securely to a table to cut with. Begin by taking the guide that came in your registration packet and cutting on the dotted line. Then wrap the guide around the tube, making sure it's square on the end, and tape it in place. Then using a marker, mark the line around the clear tube. At Kipper, we use the knife mounted to the table upside down and very carefully rotate the tube so that the knife cuts the tube along the line. Be very careful of the sharp blade and go slowly. You can go around several times until you cut all the way through. After cutting with the blade, use scissors to trim up any uneven edges. An alternative method is to use a saw. The next step is to mark the holes. Use scissors or a razor knife to carefully cut out the circles on the template. Once the holes are cut out, again tape the template onto the clear plastic tubing and very carefully using a pen or marker, mark the outline of the holes, one on each side. There are several options for cutting the holes in the tubing. However, if you put the two end caps onto the piece of tubing first, this will make it more rigid and easier to work with while cutting the holes. You can use a razor knife, however, this can be dangerous with a sharp blade. If you choose this technique, go very, very slowly and carefully. If you are using the knife method, placing a piece of solid PVC in the tubing to cut against may be helpful. Other options include using a drill. In this case, we're using a spade bit. If you go very carefully and very slowly, you can be successful with this technique. Another technique would involve drilling a smaller pilot hole in the center of the circle and then carefully using scissors to trim out concentrically until you get to the line. At Kipper, we will use a hole saw, 7/8 hole saw, to carefully cut the circles. To cut the remaining tube in half for the water storage containers, you will need to take the jig and cut it down the remaining line. Tape the template in place and mark the tubing and then cut it as before. In the end, you will end up with the 2 water hoppers and 2 fertilizer bins.